Okay, next story. More bears with neurological disorders turning up in Northern California. This is a weird story.
It's weird because these bears, they show up and they're like super friendly with humans, right? And
Or just not like scared of humans.
Right.
They're not as timid around humans as they
right.
should be.
And when eventually, like when wildlife people get word that there are bears that are friendly around humans, they come in and they check out the bears. And there have been how many of these bears in the past there's been like 3 of these bears in the past 12 months who have these neurological disorders, and they end up dying.
Yeah, it's a neurological disorder that causes inflammation in the brain. And, when these wildlife experts, capture these bears, they capture the bear because it wasn't timid. It was clearly weak. So they wanted to study it, find out what was wrong with it. And their goal ultimately is to release that bear back out to the wild. But as you mentioned, that bear and 2 other bears in the last 12 months have come up with similar inflammation in the brain because of a neurological disorder that makes releasing them to the wild they're just going to be prey. So it's easier to just kind of euthanize them and to not put that neurological disorder back into the gene pool, if you will. So it's a weird story. I've not heard about it before this. You probably have, but I was like trying to figure what is the neurological disorder, and just basically says there's a name for it. I'm not even going to try to pronounce it.
Yeah, I can't pronounce it.
Or inflammation in the brain, which quoting this, which would make the 3rd bear this neurological disorder due to this brain inflammation pass through the CDFW's WIL within the past 12 months.
Yeah, what's interesting about this is this was last week, and I was looking at our website traffic, and an old article went crazy. And that was an article about a young cub approaching a snowboarder at North Star on the slope, right? The snowboarder's on the slope, like sitting down, and this bear comes and like starts playing with the snowboarder. And we had written an article on it and posted it back in 2019 when it happened. And people were reading this again because this was one of those bears that it turns out had this
neurological disorder.
Encephalitis, I think is how you pronounce it.
I think you did a great job there.
Yeah. And so this bear, it was like super friendly, playing around with this human, not scared at all. And that's why it was kind of a interesting story back then. And obviously the snowboarder should have gone away because you never want to interact with bears like that. But it turns out that this bear had this neurological disorder, and that bear is alive. It's actually down in San Diego, being treated by the CDFW, and I think is in the zoo, Orange County Zoo now. So,
well, and it's not just this swelling of the brain is doing a lot of other things to them, because in this article they talk about how when they got this bear, it was severely underweight, covered in ticks, and it's just they're just kind of oblivious to all of the dangers that are the natural woods or the place that they naturally grow. So it's just like they just don't have any defense mechanisms.
They call it dog-like in behavior. That's what they call their behavior. It's dog-like, completely comfortable around people. And unfortunately, when they were acting like this, people were treating them as such, feeding them. There's a story of out in Pollock Pines of this group, throwing an apple and it would eat it in their backyard. And it's a good lesson. You can't interact with bears at all.
These aren't the bears from Yosemite that are they've learned that if they come to the cars, they can find food. Those are smart bears. We're talking about bears that have lost all of their natural ability to sense danger, and they're usually younger, so they don't really have a lot of they just don't have a lot of defense mechanisms.
They're also young,
right?
And way too young to be out on their own, which means they either wandered off or were sort of shooed off by their
that's probably how
their
it went.
family.
Mother bear just kind of left the bear behind.
But this is like big national news. I saw picked up by a lot of national websites because this is not a good thing.
The biggest deal is that it's because they don't know the cause.
Right.
They don't know what is causing this neurological disorder, which is causing these bears to die. We don't want these bears to die. We love bears.
And these bears who are not scared of humans might end up being in a conflict with humans at some point, right? Right now, they're friendly, but it might just be that they're not scared, which could eventually result in something catastrophic for the human who comes across them. So we'll keep an eye on this, but it's we don't know what it is, and it's kind of scary to see these bears doing what they're doing. So hopefully they get to the bottom of it and we figure out how to help them so nothing bad comes of this.